Hi y'all, welcome back to Dinner Dad Cooks with Plants. Today we make falafel. Not just any falafel, this is what I call weeknight falafel. There are multiple recipes about falafel across the landscape on YouTube, etc. Recipes are different. I have one that I use where I have more time, add certain things. I have one that is less than plant-based, a little, because I use things like fish sauce in it. But this one, because we're doing plant-based, it is called Weeknight Falafel because it's designed to be surrounding things you have in your pantry already, canned garbanzo beans or chickpeas, and giving you the ability to have like a really good falafel dinner any night of the week. Before we get started though, I wanted to go over a couple of actually reader questions from, or actually viewer questions from the last video.
They weren't viewers, they were just your co-workers.
You don't know that?
Yeah.
Okay, that's true, but they have eyes, like they have eyes in their face. They are viewers.
Yeah.
Okay.
No. So
anyway, one viewer asked, hey, Duke, that's my name, or Dinner Dad, is that a custom-made emoji shirt you have? And I said, yes, it is. The meaning of it, because this is my signature on my texting, when I text my sons and wife, basically you can kind of figure this out. The first thing is probably a little obscure. I have always been and am a fan of the big wave. So if I see my wife or kids or a friend across the room or coming in like a bank lobby, I will give them one of these. Partly because it's fun, but partly because it embarrasses them far more than it embarrasses me. And I've done that for a long time. The second thing, obviously, I cook. The third part is I like cocktails. And to that end, let's mimic the one on my shirt. Perfect. This will make this video far more fun for me. Excuse me. Great. And then the last one is it's a plant. I normally will have a bento box, or if you tune into a video and you see a porterhouse steak here, you know it's not going to be a plant-based video. But in this case, that's the answer to the shirt question. The second question I had was, what knife do you use in the last video? Great question. I use, this is a Dal Strong or a Dal Strong, I don't know how to say it. This is their Chinese cleaver. I think it's their Shogun line. It's very high carbon steel. It's actually pretty weighty. I switched over to Chinese style cleavers a few years ago because I like the ability to, smash garlic. I like the ability to scoop ingredients up. I like the ability to strain a martini into a glass. So that is that. So let's get started. We have miles to go before we sleep. Do you know what that is a reference from? I'm smarter than you. Okay,
you just made it up.
No, I didn't. Look it up. Okay, so let's get started. Falafel, if you don't know what it is a fried ball or patty made out of ground chickpeas. Could be fava beans. I've used lentils before, herbs, spices, onions, and then fried, and then put in a pita or flatbread with a variety of condiments. The most typical and most authentic are tahini and tzatziki sauce, chopped tomatoes, iceberg lettuce, whatever else you want in there. So let's get started. First thing we're going to use is a food processor to do this. You could do it by hand, I suppose, with a potato masher. This makes your life a lot easier. First thing we're going to do to get started is we're going to whack these vegetables up. And so I'm going to take, and these ingredients, unlike the last video, these ingredients are going to be mysteriously added to the viewing screen. So you don't need to write these down or remember them. But first I'm going to do a bunch of parsley. And then I'm just going to give, this is what I was talking about with green onions. I cut these into like 1 inch, 2 inch pieces. And then I'm going to okay, we're done. So you want to see something like this, kind of mulched up. Doesn't have to be a paste by any means. You want a little bit of texture in here. And could you go in different order? Sure. I typically put the greens in first because the beans are going to act as like kind of a cleaning agent to clean the outside of the bowl. The next thing I'm going to add are 2 cans of garbanzo beans.
Strained.
Yeah, drained, and keep the liquid, which trivia question is called aquafaba. It's super cool liquid. It looks disgusting. I was scared of it for years, but with the aquafaba you can actually replicate an egg white, so you can make meringues and stuff out of it, believe it or not, but you can also make a killer mayonnaise with no eggs, and we'll do that some other video. What I'm going to do here is the same thing. I'm going to pulse. You kind of want this, you know, you don't want a super smooth puree because, you know, think about it, when you bite in, you want a little action going on. So I keep it a little bit chunky. Once it starts riding up the sides, just stop it, give it a little bit of a scrape. Perfect. So I'm going to take that out. Cool. Now that part is done. Drink pause. Now let's do some manual mixing. And this is pretty easy. Again, all of the ingredient list will be on the site, so you don't have to worry about that. So what I'm going to do is, in no particular order, I'm going to add some garlic salt, cumin, flour, helps bind it. Oh, baking powder, forgot what this was. Baking powder adds a little lift, makes it a little light. Not, you know, not on like a cake or a pancake or something where you want a little air in it, and this could be dense. Then the next thing is I want a little spice. Like I've said before, I want it to be kind of interesting. You could certainly add cayenne. I have this chili garlic sauce that you can see in the store, or sambal or something like that, to add a little oomph. So I add a little bit of that. Then my friend MSG. You don't want to get, I'm not going to get into debate or anything like that about whether you believe MSG is harmful. I don't. I've never seen any scientific evidence to the contrary. However, if you don't want to add it, don't add it. Final thing I'm going to add is flax seeds, specifically ground flax seeds. The reason I do that, not to mention that they're really good for you, but the reason I add flax seeds is they're a natural binding agent. You don't need to add a binder to this necessarily. If I'm making it non-vegan, I'll probably add an egg or two just to be on the safe side to help it hold it together. But since this is plant-based and we're going full vegan, flaxseed. So ground flaxseed, 1 tablespoon of flaxseed, ground flaxseed to 2 ounces of hot water. Stir it around till it looks like phlegm. You're not going to see that in many cooking videos. And then add it. So this was, you can see this is kind of, it's like that chia seed stuff. So I'm just going to add this, again, as a binder. And then what we're going to do, all we're going to do is mix. I mean, so this is pretty, you can kind of see how simple this is. So you could assemble this like on the same night. What I do, and you'll see later, is what I do is I will make a batch of this or double the batch. I will scoop and bread or flour the balls. Can't say that I'm having, and I know, sophomoric. And then I freeze it. And then once I freeze it typically on a sheet pan Once they're frozen, I'll take them out, put them in a Ziploc, and then I have falafel for any night of the week. This one, and I think it's due to the flax seeds being a little bit gummy, I'm gonna add just a skosh of water. This is not in the recipe, not needed, but if you get, it's kind of a good guide when you're making like a recipe. If it's looking, just use your head and your senses. If it doesn't look quite right, go ahead and add a little water. And so see, this is already coming together. Just the evaporation of the water from the flax seeds overnight, because I did that last night, caused it to be a little dry. So I just added a little water and then smoothing that out. And that, ladies and gentlemen, that's done. So that's how fast this goes. When you have canned garbanzo beans and all your ingredients measured. So now at this stage, this is gonna go in the fridge for half an hour, overnight would be great. If you're in a jam for time, you can use a kind of a food service trick and get maximum air exposure to what you're chilling. So I would put this probably like on a shallow or sheet pan, spread it out a little bit, stick it in the freezer. Then in like 15-20 minutes, it's ready and ready to scoop. So that is ready to go, and we're gonna stick that in the fridge. Now, let's talk about what we're gonna serve it with. Like I said, typically tahini and tzatziki. Tahini, here. So this is sesame seed paste. There's a brand out there that I learned about. A couple gals from the East Coast with, I believe, family in Israel, or they're from there, have started a tahini manufacturing or importation company called Soom, S-O-O-M. Their tahini is lights out. You can get it online, I think through their website. Depending on where you are, they might have it in the store. But I would opt for that. It's awesome. If you don't have access to that, a lot of times you'll see tahini in cans. It's great. That's what this is. A little tip there is, just like natural peanut butter, that stuff's gonna settle. And so when you're opening the can, what I typically do is turn the can upside down. So the settled part is up top, so it makes it easier to get out. That's the first thing. The second thing is I dump the whole load in a bowl. He's gonna squeak those out. And dear. And so I dump the whole thing in a bowl, so I have the ability to use a wire whisk in a big bowl, so it doesn't spill out, because that's one of my pet peeves. So just wire whisk, and then it'll allow you to get that back in solution. Or you could use an immersion blender and stick it either in the can or in like a quart jar, and then whip it up that way. The deal about tahini, and I'm not going to make the sauce here, just know that you add lemon juice, water, salt, whatever you want in there. However, when you add the lemon and the water, this thing is gonna look like it's possessed. It's gonna get like, or you've curdled it, like curdled milk, and it's gonna look like, oh, I've really f***ed this thing up somehow. But keep whisking. It's gonna break down, and then it's gonna get super thick. Then you just need to thin it out to your desired thinness and test for spice. So test for salt, test for lemon juice, and then test for the consistency you want. So that's the first thing. The second thing is we're going to talk about tzatziki. Tzatziki is a sauce, I think it's Greek in origin, I'm not quite sure, it's Middle Eastern, typically made with yogurt. I make mine with sour cream. This is vegan sour cream, one of the few vegan products that doesn't taste like it's actually quite good.
You mean vegan cheese products that doesn't taste good?
Yeah, that's what I meant. So, vegan sour cream. And what I do in the past, and you'll see sometimes people do, is they will use like a box grater or something like that, and they'll grate onion, and then they'll grate cucumber, and then sometimes salt the cucumber to take the water out of it. I tried that for a while, and it was tantamount to like when I was a kid at Halloween having like a Mounds or an Almond Joy. You'd be like eating it going, like trying to pull those strings of coconut out of your mouth. Now I love Mounds, but I didn't then, and I don't like grated cucumber in my tzatziki anymore. So what I've done is I've kind of taken a super fast way out, used vegan sour cream, bumped it up with lemon juice, some salt, and then you can add whatever herbs you have on hand or dried. This is a cheater way, and it's perfectly acceptable for weeknight falafel. So I've added just simply dried dill. And so it's a basic, super basic tzatziki sauce. You can use yogurt if you want. I find it too acidic. Of course, plant-based, you want to go dairy-free. So that's that. And then the last thing, and like I said, is I don't grate cucumber to put it in there because I don't like it. But I do love cucumber in this. So I make a simple brunoise or a small dice of cucumber. I don't pre-salt it because I don't want to necessarily leach all the water out, because I like the water loosening it up a little bit. And then I like chopped tomatoes on mine. So do a lot of people. I typically, this time of year, because we're in the north and in spring, the tomatoes are pretty much bad. So I will always default to cherry tomatoes because they tend to have more flavor. Try and seek out heirloom organics if I can, because I love those, but it's up to you. So we've got that, and now the last thing we're going to talk about is the vehicle that you're going to eat this off of. So what I do during the week is I opt for the, there we go, tortilla land. So whatever, that's awesome. So whatever, I don't know if you've seen these are like the pan fry or pan heat flour tortillas. I really like these. And they're not as thick as like a pita, but they're much better to me in quality than pita. But first, before we do that, going in order, we're going to flour some balls. Tell me that's not funny.
It's not funny.
So through the magic of video, I have a batch of falafel balls that I've already chilled, and I have a pan here. And let me throw on some gloves. You want to grab a scoop, a little food service trivia, if you'd like to know that. This is called a disher in food service, but whatever. So now for the flouring, what I do is I like to add sesame seeds to this. You don't have to, you can go straight flour, you could fry these straight, doesn't matter. But what I do is I do approximately like a third sesame seeds and a 2/3 flour, mix that up with a wire whisk, and then it's literally as simple as taking one of these, dropping it in, and so you can see how quickly this can go. So you could do a batch and flour these pretty quickly, and then it just comes down to frying them. So then you just move these around, be gentle a little bit. These are not meatballs, so they're not super dense. They're not gonna fall apart, but you could squeeze them into a donut if you wanted, or something like that. And so that's what we're looking for right there. And so these, in essence, are ready to fry. Okay guys, so we're back. So this is our balls. I'd normally take them out of here, but they all fit in here. And then we have oil. This is at about 350. And then all I'm gonna do is just lay these in here, kind of working around to separate these guys. Okay, so now these are about where I want them. Might go a little darker if I wanted, but I'll typically just take the spider and let these drain out. Now you'll put these on a paper towel, or you can use one of these. This is the best investment, one of the best investments I've made in the kitchen, one of these screened pans that fit into a half sheet pan. Okay, cool. So let's build a pita. So we'll use one of our less weird looking pitas. I'll grab a kind of a fancy black plate just to show you what it looks like. So we'll put the pita down. Now the order doesn't matter. I mean, do whatever you want. What I do, and I kind of think about occasionally when I'm doing this, is like, you know, what flavor do I want somebody to bite into first? This is not that complicated. I'm just looking at my tzatziki sauce and I see how thick it is, and I want it kind of to drizzle. So what I'm going to do is use this first then. So I'm just going to put this down and spread this out, not quite wall to wall. And then I'm just going to put a few falafel balls. You might get 4 in this case, but then I'm just going to finish it with a little cucumber, a little of these cherry tomatoes. And again, this is just basically a taco. It doesn't need to be super fancy, especially on a weeknight. It's just super cool you're getting something that tasty during the week. Then you can see my tahini. I've loosened this up. It's kind of seized up overnight when I originally made it. So I added some water and I got this drizzle, which is what I really like. Partly just for the aesthetics of it, but partially so it gets everywhere. And then you can serve more tahini on the side. And then finally for me, and if you follow this channel for a while, I'm gonna make this sauce, but this is what I call OG orange sauce. This is a chili de arbol, not Mediterranean at all, but it adds a little spice, a little garlic, and a little color. And that is it. Weeknight pita. I'm Dinner Dad. You can see it on the back of my super cool custom shirt. And I'll see you next time cooking plants.